Hello everyone, welcome to Skyrise Academy. Today we are going to discuss about the UPSC Law Optional 2021 syllabus. So before we move to the syllabus, let's first see the UPSC exam pattern. It is divided into three stages. First is prelims exam, which is qualifying in nature and is of 200 marks. Then we have mains exam, in which we have our law optional and it is of 1750 marks. And lastly, we have personality test, which is of 275 marks. So total is of this two is 2025 marks, out of which the aspirants are selected for the exam. So let's see the mains exam pattern. We have total 7 papers and plus 2 which are of qualifying nature, paper A and paper B. So in those 7 papers, the merit-based papers, we have our law optional in 2 papers. So paper 1 and paper 2. So the weightage of optional subject is 25%. That is huge, right? I hope you got a brief idea about the exam pattern. Now we will go to the law optional syllabus. So as we saw, there are 2 papers. So paper 1 has these 3 subjects: Indian Constitution, Administrative Law and International Law. These 3 comprise of paper 1 and the rest 4 broad topics: Indian Penal Code, Law of Torts, Mercantile Law and Contemporary Legal Developments. They comprise the paper 2. Now let's see them in details. So first is the Constitutional Law. So these are the subtopics, and once you cover this, you almost cover 20% of the paper 1 and of course the law subject, also law syllabus. So we have constitution and constitutionalism, then the fundamental rights, relationship between fundamental rights and directive principles, then the constitutional position of president, the legislative powers, immunities, the governor, Supreme Court and High Courts, then center, state and local bodies, emergency provisions, amendment, and the services under the union and state. These are the broad topics, right? And they can easily be covered in the duration of 1 month. Then we have administrative law. In that we will be studying the principles of natural justice, delegated legislation, then separation of power, which will overlap with the constitution, judicial review and Lokpal and Lokayukta. Now we move on to the international law. Here we have the nature and definition of international law, relationship between international law and municipal law, then state recognition and succession, then UNCLOS, individuals, then extradition and asylum, which we see very often in news, then the United Nations, this again we see very often, then peaceful settlements of disputes, then humanitarian law, legality of the use of nuclear weapons, treaties, international terrorism, and the human environment. These are the broad topics given in the syllabus. So when we complete these 3, we complete 50% of the law optional syllabus, and these 3 subjects, the constitutional law, administrative law and international law, can easily and very conveniently be completed within the span of 2.5 to 3 months. And most of the topics in those subjects, we can see them in the current affairs. So even if you don't choose law as an optional subject, you anyway have to read about them because you see them very often in the current affairs, which is the major portion of the GS papers. So now we see the subjects of paper 2. First we start with law of crimes. Here we have the criminal liability, what is mens rea, actus reus, then kinds of punishment, whether you support capital punishment or not, that is again a very trending topic. Then preparations and criminal attempt, general exceptions, joint and constructive liability, abatement, criminal conspiracy. Then offenses against human body, public tranquility, offenses against state. Here again we see the sedition very often in news. Offenses against property, offenses against women. Again, this topic can be asked in the essay paper. Defamation, Prevention of Corruption Act, plea bargaining, and protection of civil rights. So this comprises of the law of crimes, and again this can easily be covered in 1 month time. Now we will see the law of torts. So again it starts with the nature and the definition. Then kinds of tort, absolute and strict liability, tort fissures, then general defenses, vicarious liability, remedies, negligence, defamation, nuisance, conspiracy, false imprisonment, malicious prosecution, and Consumer Protection Act. Consumer Protection Act is one such act like RTI which everyone should have knowledge of, because you never know, you might need it and you can easily file a complaint there. So you should definitely know this act, even if you don't opt for the law optional or become a civil servant. You should definitely know about this act. Then we have the law of contracts, nature of contracts, then what is free, concerned, void, voidable, and illegal and unenforceable agreements, quasi-contracts, performance, then consequences of breach of contract, the contract of indemnity, guarantee, contract of agency, then NI Act, Arbitration and Reconciliation Act, Goods Act, then partnership and standard form contracts. So this broadly makes our law of contracts, the mercantile law. And lastly, we have contemporary legal developments. This starts with PIL, which again overlaps with constitution law. Then it has intellectual property rights, competition law, IT Act, then environmental law, RTI, alternate dispute resolution, and trial by media. This is the most interesting and dynamic topic. See, rest of the law optional subject remains more or less static. It is only in this that new cases are there, and it is very dynamic, very new, and very interesting to know them. Of course, this also remains static to some extent, but it is my personal favorite, and it is very interesting to know about patents, copyright, and how we can implement them in our day-to-day life, right? So the paper 2 syllabus can also be completed within the span of 2.5 to 3 months. So total, in the 6 months time, you can easily complete your law optional syllabus very conveniently by devoting just 1 hour daily. So that is the ease with which we can complete the syllabus. And more or less it overlaps very significantly with the GS subjects. So it is very beneficial to take law as your optional subject if you haven't chosen any other. Thank you, Skyrisers. For more information, you can visit the website. And in case of queries, you may also mail us or call or WhatsApp us on the given number. Thank you.